Oh, we're good. Okay, John, we are here. PGA Championship recap, a little Charles Schwab Challenge betting preview. It's been a while, my man. How are you doing?
Has been a while. It's great to be back. I've missed you, Andy.
I love seeing that
Um,
Knicks hat on your head, man.
Orange and blue skies. It's a new it's a new chapter in our lives.
It's
The Eastern Conference
it's been a
Finals. I've
great
never
couple of
lived
weeks.
to really appreciate a Knicks Eastern Conference Finals. So vibes are good. My PGA Championship profitability is not quite what yours was, but it was a good watch nonetheless. And I'm probably more excited than you are to turn the page because I like betting the Charles Schwab Challenge. I did
Me
not
too.
see the green PGA Championship week, so it's a new week, and I'm excited for it.
So where did you end up on for Quail? Were you part of the big Bryson gang or
No,
you
I'm
went in a
gonna.
different direction?
So I get to. So Vic Lap, I bet the plus 500 guy at the PGA Championship.
Just the wrong
That's
one.
yeah.
The other guy.
So just suffice to say, like I was right in putting all my chips
The
on the
single bullet
table on
strategy
one
was
guy.
always the move.
Yeah. I can't even explain how Rory was as disappointing and mediocre as he was at
Yeah.
that tournament. Like, was I sure that he was going to win? No, but I was damn near positive he was going to top 10. And he was just lifeless that week.
I was a little I mean, I can't say that I was ever on the team floodgates. He's just going to blow the doors off of every major championship that he enters going forward. And this guy that hadn't won a major in 10 years was now just going to reel off multiple majors in the same season. I don't think I was ever on that camp, but the energy and the vibe at Quail was very off with Rory and very surprising to me. This really felt like for Rory, and I didn't mean to do a whole Rory thing. I promise we'll get to Scotty at some point too. But this is supposed to be like the coronation, right? This is supposed to be one of the happier weeks of his life, and he's bringing the Masters jacket everywhere and celebrating finally getting the monkey off his back at a golf course that has been so kind to him and familiar to him over the years. And it just felt like the energy was off from the jump. I mean, I don't know why he's not doing media at Quail Hollow. He's been doing media at Quail Hollow and answering questions about that golf course for the last 15 years.
Yeah, even the quotes before the week were like really encouraging before we got into the tournament. And he was like, yeah, it's actually just setting up to be another Wells Fargo event. They didn't really change it from what the PGA Tour had been doing. So I'm just going to play my shots. They asked him to compare his game to other players on tour. He was like, I like my game. I would take my game over anybody else's game. Like, we got confident, Rory. And then immediately, Thursday starts and you can't get a hold of him the rest of the week. And there's this drama about the non-conforming driver, which is probably a whole lot of nothing. But
Yeah.
just like questionable vibes. And I feel like I was hoodwinked and I bet on a version of Rory that did not show up.
I've been there too, man. I mean, that is what happened to me at the Masters before the Masters that he ended up winning, where I was on property that week and it felt like the energy was off the charts. And then he shows up to the first tee and you kind of get those slumped shoulders. And it's like, oh man, it's going to be one of those weeks. I mean, in terms of like the bigger picture of watching the event for you, how did it turned out to be a controversial venue, I would say. I mean, I never thought that I would be in the camp where I'm now defending Quail Hollow, but I was a little surprised to see how quickly the internet and fans turned on this major championship so quickly. And I understand why that is. I agree with a lot of those concerns. I've talked about those reasons why this one just seemed to lack the juice compared to other major championships. But where did you net out on Quail in the entire week?
Yeah, I feel like it just ended up being Torrey Pines US Open 2.0 or whatever you want to call it, like just another version of that where it's going to produce a great leaderboard and the cream is going to rise to the top and you get an eventful, although this was like stripped of drama on the back nine. But that's what this venue produces time and time again. And it has the infrastructure, and the fans will show up. It's in a good city. Like it gives you everything a major should. It just limits the number of guys who can compete, which makes it a less entertaining and less palatable event to bet, because like you need a tight card. You're not going to get a surprise here at Quail Hollow over the course of 4 days. The best players with length will separate. So
It,
that's kind of what we got.
yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, and it may just be a me thing, but did this, because I felt like I was butting up against this, where I felt like I was just getting like a discounted version of what they're trying to do aesthetically every year at the Masters. Did that butt up for you at all, either watching this week, where it just felt to me like this golf course was so obsessed with becoming Augusta National and looking like Augusta National, and even to a certain extent playing like Augusta National? And it's like, the Masters is so great because it's once a year. Like, I don't need every golf course to look and play like this and be completely overseeded. And actually, I don't know how much you remember of this, but that tooth, and I know it's not their fault because this is in May. And for this to really play out effectively, the tournament probably would have needed to be in August. But the burnt out, non-overseeded Bermuda head to toe version of Quail that we saw in 2017, like, give me that version of Quail. And that's the problem that I think a PGA championship in May runs into, because it's not even Quail's fault. I'm not even blaming Quail for the weather this time of year. But it seems like we're limiting the type of golf course that we're going to for 2 out of the 4 majors of the year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think when I saw the GCSAA sheet and the overseed for this, I was a little disappointed too, because I like that, like, Bermuda throughout identity, and you don't see Bermuda in majors really at all. So like,
Pinehurst was rare and it was awesome.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. And again, it's like something that opens up more guys to contend when you add nuance to a major. And this is just like another, Winged Foot, Bethpage, Oak Hill, like the same type of leaderboard will present itself, because it's the long guys who hit fairways and are, able to separate with their long irons and can scramble in difficult conditions. That's the same like group of 10 guys that can come out of a tournament like
Yeah.
that. So if you had like a little like Bermuda situation where it's like, oh, wait a second, this guy does those things too, but he's never been able to play a major in Bermuda, then, you could at least have some nuance there. The last thing I would say on Quail, and then I'm sure we'll turn the page to Charles Schwab. I feel like for a venue that has hosted a tournament every year since 2003,
Yeah.
and multiple majors and President's Cups over the years, it lacks a signature moment.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I think, what takes away from the fun of Quail Hollow. Like, if I compare it, like, if Expect Anything Different happened at Quail Hollow, we would think of it as an iconic venue, I think, because it would be attached to this awesome moment in golf. And as a venue that produces tight drama a lot, like so many playoffs there too, I don't think of a singular moment there that's like, oh, can you believe this shot that happened at Quail Hollow?
It's a good point. I'm trying to think. I mean, what was the signature shot of the PGA Championship? I have actually, there is one that came to mind, but does anything come to mind for you?
No. And I will think back on this as the runaway Scotty major,
Me
just
too.
like the rest of his majors.
That's
This first three have all been runaways.
that's probably how I will remember it, is like the overseed nation and all these driver putter guys chasing Scotty Scheffler. I think the shot that will stick with me the most was probably the driver to 2 feet for
Homer.
Scotty Scheffler on Saturday.
Okay.
No, when he drove the 14th green to 2 feet and had that tap in eagle to take the lead, because that hour, and you may have seen this Data Golf tweet, but that hour was where the entire tournament completely shifted.
Yeah.
Bryson grabbed the lead. Bryson got to 8 under par heading into the 16th hole, or the 17th hole, excuse me, on Saturday. And then he hits that water ball, makes double. And then Scotty goes on to birdie 2 out of his last 3 holes. And suddenly Bryson takes his 1-stroke lead and Scotty walks away with a 5-stroke lead.
Yeah.
That
That
so
sequence.
that sequence probably for me is what I will remember the most from Quail, but maybe this can transition us into like talking about Oakmont a little bit as well, because as soon as this major finishes, I'm already thinking about the next one. I thought Bryson was an incredibly tough out last week. And there was, he ended up being like the most popular bet that I've seen in Twitter history. And so, as a Scotty ticket holder, a couple of my brave friends and I, that now knowing you were part of Anti Bryson Nation as well, should have been a part of that group chat. Like, we were sweating Bryson not playing well. And I swear to God, John, like, that guy like should birdie every hole. Like every single hole, it is driver 330 yards straight down the middle. I made the joke like the crank driver that he uses, and I know there was some driver stuff that ended up popping up later in the week, but that crank driver that he uses either should be like completely illegal or every player should be using it. And so I know he faltered down the stretch, and I know he didn't give the result that I think a lot of people were hoping for. I think I think the skill that he has in drive, I mean, he is basically any golf course that's driver heavy. He is a lock to start off at his tournament, gaining 6 strokes off the tee. And so I walked away from this week thinking, like, what is stopping Bryson from putting himself at least in a very similar position at Oakmont?
Yeah, skinny Bryson contended at Oakmont, the last time I was there too. So that's kind of scary. He made some comments after the round was over that he's going to push his ball manufacturer to their limits to make the ball go even straighter, which like
I don't
really
know
wasn't
why
that big of a problem for
I don't
him.
know why he does that. I don't know why he makes it so much about equipment. Like make it about you, dude. I get it. I know it's his persona and the math equation, the scientist, the professor. I get all of that. I do absolutely have a lot of respect for somebody that truly understands how to optimize technology. Like I think that Bryson I don't know if there's a player in professional golf right now that I trust more than Bryson to get the most out of technology, and most golfers should be doing that with how advanced technology is. So yeah, I'm with you on Bryson 100%.
Yeah, and I'll say too, the comments he made in 2020 or 2021 at Augusta, like this is a par 68 for me, whatever he said. He just said that like 2 years too early because
Yeah.
we were all anti Bryson as a collective. It was like this guy's cringe and annoying and interesting, but like we're out on the bit. And now we've come full circle and it's like Bryson's entertaining. We like Bryson again. And if he said
Yeah.
that now, it would be like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool way of approaching it. And he's right. Like he has the distance where it's driver wedge on a bunch of these holes, and on par fives, he's pin high all the time, and he's a great scrambler. So you're when you're betting against Bryson, it's like, oh, well, you got to give him a birdie on the par fives because he's going to be there.
Yeah, he has done like a remarkable 180 with his PR team, and I wouldn't say that his shtick totally works on me. I certainly don't find it as endearing as I know that some others do, but I want to like I love when he's around. I mean, you can't like if it's a 1 or 0, Bryson or no Bryson involved in contention for any tournament, I'm always choosing having Bryson be around because I think he adds a pretty cool level of just like you're watching him do it in a very different way than Scotty. And Scotty's not short by any means, but like watching, and it didn't end up being the duel that I was kind of hoping for. Maybe we'll get to Rom in a second too, who put up more of a fight than Bryson down the stretch. But actually watching their contrasting styles, and I don't know if that's going to be like the next great rivalry at these major championships for the next 5 years. But Bryson is legitimately like 50 yards longer than Scotty Scheffler. Like, and Scotty Scheffler is so much of a better iron player than Bryson too. But gosh, is there anything that is like preventing you from thinking we get something similar at Oakmont? Is the question I kind of walk away thinking.
Well, I think there's more variance where you can't just bomb and gouge in the way that you could at an
Yes,
overseeded Quail
but
Hollow.
I also think you can eliminate people at Oakmont in a way that you couldn't eliminate
Yeah.
at Quail. So I agree with what you're saying, but I also think there's a tier of player, maybe like a Denny McCarthy who finished top 10 at Quail, that can do just enough off the tee to put himself in a position to gain 8 or 9 strokes putting and just totally black out on the greens. I would be worried at Oakmont that a player like Denny McCarthy can't even put himself in that position because he's hitting long irons out of thicker rough all day.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it to that same point, like, yes, Bryson is on a very short list for me. I'm betting 2 to 3, potentially 1 player on my betting card for Oakmont
Has to
because
be.
it's still a short list of guys who can do it.
It has to be. I'm trying to even rack my brain the last time that we haven't had like a really big name major winner at the top of the odds board. It just doesn't happen as often anymore. I think the last time we've been on a run essentially, right, since Wyndham won at 80 to 1 at LACC, where the guy's been like under 25. Oh, no, Brian Harmon. What am I talking about? Brian Harmon and Windy was a very weird year in
Yeah.
2023. And then the last 2 years, it's been a lot more chalk. I mean, does Rom's inclusion and newfound relevance, does that do anything for you? How are you grading Rom's return to relevant professional golf shots down the stretch?
I was all in on Rahm at the Masters, so I would have been very salty if he figured it out the following major because he was so troublingly, perplexingly bad at the Masters, and I still don't understand why he was as bad as he was.
Yeah. By the way,
He
finished
should
T14, which shows how good he is.
Yeah, that is crazy because he played himself out
Yeah.
completely out of the tournament the first 2 days. Yeah, I mean, Oakmont, perfect course for him. He should play well there. I guess I need to see how he continues to play on Live. I just don't really know what weight to put into that because he's been top 10ing every week before the Masters too. It just wasn't there at the Masters. But he's on a short list of guys who can hit it long and straight and scramble in tough conditions. So he's going to be a consideration for me. I walked away from the PGA Championship feeling a lot better about Xander, actually, not based on the score, but just seeing him pound it past Rory and Scotty
Yeah,
all
he drove
day,
he drove the ball
Thursday,
really well at
Friday.
Quail. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's healthy and rusty, I think. And you give him a month to prep for the US Open. That's a really interesting spot to me for him.
I think you're right there. I think that I'm walking away from Quail thinking the order should probably be Scotty, Rory, Bryson, Rom, Xander.
Mhm.
And then whoever you want to put in sixth place, um, you could sell me on, but that next tier of Ludwig and Colin Morikawa and Justin Thomas, what's going on with those guys this season? Seriously. I mean, I don't understand how you don't make like this was not a difficult cut to make. And a lot of these guys just put up a embarrassing performance in my opinion and got beat by a bunch of guys that they have no business getting beat at a major championship. I mean, what's the panic meter on Ludwig and Colin? I guess like I'd throw like freaking Patrick Cantlay and Justin Thomas into that category as well.
Yeah,
Disappointing well for all of them.
I think it's Colin, JT, and Ludwig in the next tier of like very good players, disappointing so far in majors. Should
Do
be
any of
there.
those guys do any of those guys are any of those guys in the mid 20s getting your money at a major championship coming up?
I can't explain why Ludwig has fallen off as sharply as he has, but he should play a course like this very well if he gets back to who he is.
Oh, Oakmont should be perfect for Ludwig. He just can't. I don't know why he can't hit an iron right now.
Yeah, he can't. And it's like he has such a simple swing, like you wouldn't expect him to lose it. But he's young, so I guess he's just going through something, whatever it is. And Colin, I think, is going to take a step back before he takes a few steps forward with the new caddy situation. I think that was like him and JJ were a great partnership,
Yeah.
and he was chasing something short-sighted, maybe a little bit of like, oh, well, if Joe Griner can help JT win, I need to win, so I should partner up
Yeah.
with him. I've been concerned with some of the comments he's been making about we just need to get each other better. He seems like a very in his head type of player, and he needs a very particular type of caddy. So I'm monitoring that because I do believe in Colin and he's going to win again soon. But I don't love that partnership right now. And JT will find it. He's just so volatile in majors. He either has it or he
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. That's fair. Have you made any future bets before we turn the page to Colonial?
I haven't. I'm thinking about Brooks though. He's going to keep falling. He's
I
like
would
40
say
right now.
I would say wait. I would
I'm definitely
say
going to wait, but like
there's that
he's
number feels like it's in free fall to me right now. I mean, there's one live event between now and the US Open. And I don't know what he would have to do. I mean, I guess I suppose if he wins the live event, they will drop him at a US Open quite quickly. But concerning, man, concerning. I
very
mean,
concerning.
I get it. If you're going to start throwing out Brooks Koepka 80 to ones at major championship golf courses, that particularly in a US Open is so much about strategy and knowing when to pace yourself and understanding how to build around. And in his heyday, no one is better than Brooks Koepka at that. Like nobody's better at understanding how to play on these USGA setups and like know that a bogey is never going to kill you. And just understanding that pacing of how to build around and play to the fat part of the greens, like that is his music. Um, but I think he might be cooked, man.
Yeah, I'm not a Brooks guy. I need him to free fall. If it gets past 60, I'm going to bet it, and it's 40 right now. So that might be one where like the books readjust on Monday and nobody has bet Brooks and he hasn't looked like a professional golfer in a year, and then you get a good number on it. That's what it would take for me to bet him. But other than that, no, I have not bet anybody. I'm circling in on Bryson and Xander, I think, at the top. And if it's a two-man card with those two guys, I think I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was curious to see like what people would do at Oakmont coming off this like such a unanimity um on or consensus, I suppose would be the better word that I'm talking about with Bryson. I'm interested to see at Oakmont um if people decide, okay, now it's going to be Scotty. Scotty's going to go take over the world, although people generally don't like picking players to go back to back at majors. That's certainly not an easy thing to do. Rory disappointed a lot of people, and then you have Rahm entering the picture as well. I don't know. It seems to me like people are just going to run back Bryson again. I mean, and I don't know how much of an argument I can come up with uh, against that on this golf course. In fact, I might even be able to build an argument that if the rough penalty is the way I expect it to be, then there are a lot of players that could have beaten him at Quail Hollow that may not even be able to beat him at Oakmont. So um, we shall see, my friend. But let's turn the page to Colonial, a golf course we've got some data on. We've been going to for a while. Any broad reaching thoughts on the golf course before we dive into the betting board?
Broad reaching thoughts are I thought the restoration work was incredible.
Agreed.
First time seeing it last year. I think it's one of the most underappreciated restorations we've seen in the last few years
Mhm.
because it had just it's such a historic venue, that long-standing venue that we see every year, and so much history there. And time passed it by, and technology passed it by, and you just started to see like the Jason Kokrak's of the world just cut corners and overpower this thing. And it was no longer the plotter's course that rewarded guys like Matt Kuchar and Chris Kirk earlier when they won here. And once the like secret kind of got out that you can just overpower Colonial, everybody stopped playing it the way it was supposed to be played. And we got back to, the way it was supposed to be intended to be played last
Yeah.
year. It looks great. Somehow Davis Riley won. I can't rationalize that. I don't know how it happened.
It was such a weird event last year, and I gotta say, I don't even know if the golf course was like those greens were. I don't even know if they were fully ready to host a tournament. I mean, they were so firm and bouncy that often when you get firm greens and tougher conditions, it separates the better players from the worst players. But then there's always that line that sometimes you'll get at major championships where it becomes so hard and windy that there's actually like an inflection point where it actually creates more randomness and starts to go downhill in terms of its ability to separate the best players because there becomes an element of luck involved. Colonial was kind of teetering that edge last year because I remember watching and I had some idiot in the mix that didn't end up winning. I think it might have been Keegan.
I was on
And
Keegan too.
yeah, that would make some sense. Keegan made a lot of sense. Like shout out Apex height. And and I just remember balls taking these moon bounces on the greens. And I don't think we'll get that this year because they've had a year now of member play. So the greens should settle into the earth a little bit more. I mean, it'll still be hard, but I don't think it'll be crazy like last year.
Yeah, a lot like the Memorial restoration after the workday in
Yeah.
2020, where that first year it was like they finished it just in time, and there
Yeah.
was even some like areas that were like not complete in front of the green and stuff. Like they really pushed it to do it in a year. They did the same thing here. So with you there. And then otherwise, like I was very just curious what that leaderboard was going to look like the first year post restoration, ripping up the entire course. It did end up playing the way that it usually does, where the accurate players and the precise ball strikers kind of separated. Davis Riley is an anomaly. Like I'm going to throw that away. He had the best round of
300 to
play.
1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cleared an informed Scotty by 5 strokes. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like Scotty brought his B+ game and you cleared him. So more power to you. But yeah, it's still a course that should reward accuracy, and even more so post restoration. Like that's what they wanted to get back. So going after the fairway finders and good iron players once again.
I think Scotty Scheffler is a pretty good fairway finder and good iron player. And I really wish that he wasn't playing this week, John.
Yep.
I don't really understand. I mean, far be it from me to question his schedule. But what do we do with Scotty? He's 2 to 1. Are you without Scotty Scheffler, guy? How afraid of him are you this week?
Terrified.
Yeah, me too.
There's absolutely no reason you could. There's no reason you could come up with to not fear Scotty.
Yeah,
It's a Texas homecoming. He's going so far out of his way to play this event. It's not like an RVC Heritage where it's a signature event, so you just got to be there. There's nothing requiring Scotty to be here, and obviously he's from the Fort Worth area, so like it's a homecoming. The crowd
yeah.
is on his side. The last time he went to a meaningless Texas event, he
He won
not
by
only
10.
won
And
but
I
like
think
broke the
he
scoring
cares
record.
about winning this one more than he cares about winning Craig Ranch.
He does. He does. He's been in the mix all the time here. When he won the Masters, he won the week after that. So you can't even say like there's a hangover here. Like he just shows up at the courses that suit him and he plays well. So yeah, I'm terrified of Scotty. I am gonna bet the without Scotty Scheffler market
Me
this week.
too.
I've
I
never
don't
done
feel
that
great
before.
about it.
I don't, you know what's fun about it though? It brings back into play all those gutless losers where you're like, yeah, like he's gonna play
Yeah.
well, but is he gonna win a PGA Tour event? Like now I'm like, who cares? Like
Yeah. You
Scotty
feel like
runs
you could
away, he's
fire
got a
that. Yeah.
7-stroke lead going into Sunday, and all of a sudden this guy's playing free, and it's like Bezaden how coming in second at the Amex and winning it because not Dunlap was an amateur that year.
Sure.
Like it's like okay, well. Yeah, if the pressure's off, then sometimes these guys can play a bit better. So no shame about it. Like I think you're doing yourself a disservice if out of pride you're like, I'm not going to bet the Scotty without Scotty market. Like the numbers aren't that different.
The numbers aren't that different. It's more fun to win. Where did you do your betting? I was looking at FanDuel, but I was hoping that there were enough books that I was gonna be able to shop a little bit because I got what I think were some decent numbers on FanDuel, but did Bet365 put it out too?
I'm
Where did you
no
make
longer
most of
in
your bets?
market for Bet365 in New York now.
Oh, you
So
moved to New
I'm
York, so you're without Bet365. Where do you
yeah,
bet then?
so
FanDuel, DraftKings?
yeah. So I put
Yeah,
mine all in on those two. I think Fanatics or PointsBet also has it. Not every book has it.
yeah.
But at least half the ones I have access to do. So I was able to shop around a tiny bit.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's like the next crop of players after Scotty is like Tommy, Hideki, Berger. They're 25 to 1 standard and they're like 20 to 1 without. That's not a significant difference to me. So I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind taking that.
I would agree. I looked at the numbers and I thought about it long and hard, and even, like, the biggest difference for me, I think, was a 25 on Burger versus a 20 on Burger, and I mean, I was tracking Scotty Scheffler pretty damn closely last week because of the outright that I had on him, and I just think when you get firm greens, and I do think that there will be golf courses down the stretch of the season that maybe is going to bring the field a little bit more back into play with Scotty. There's going to be some things that even out the playing field a little bit, but on a golf course where the name of the game, and I've been saying this about Colonial for years, particularly even this year more than ever, when you kind of have a golf course with still newish greens. I mean, the number one skill that you need to be able to do at Colonial is control your short irons, often out of, unpredictable Bermuda rough, or find the fairway and be able to play offense on the golf course with your short irons. Like if you find the fairway consistently at Colonial, you can play offense with your short irons. And there are a bunch of short to medium length par fours that you can make birdie on. And it turns into a defensive course really quickly if you're not hitting the fairway and trying to stop even those wedges on firm greens. I mean, that skill in itself, there's no one better in golf than Scotty Scheffler at it. So I'm with you. I'm a without soldier this week. And I've only made two bets. I bet Burger and I bet Rye, um, which fits, a similar profile. I think you could generally gather from those two players. But where did you go at the top?
Yeah, I'm with you on Berger. I think it's a perfect course. He's won here before. And it's just doing everything so well. He's so well rounded about his game right now. It seems like a win is going to come soon for him. And this plays into all of his strengths. So love Berger. And I went Tommy at the top of the board again.
The
Like,
without market, there's no one that could talk shit about your bet. Doesn't have to win.
look, last time I saw you in person, we sweated the Olympics.
I remember that.
And and silver medalist Tommy
I remember
Fleetwood,
that. Yeah.
just he had it and he got deer in the headlights chased down by Scotty Scheffler. So if that happens again, we're good.
Yeah.
We're covered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I would add also, this is such a great golf course for like what he does well. I know that his course history here it's honestly not as good as I would have expected, but I wouldn't put a ton of stock into that. Like if he can play well at Harbor Town, this is a great golf course for his accuracy off the tee.
yeah, there's just something to be said about the players who don't have to be here, who are scheduling to be here. Like I think Tommy understands that his game translates very well here.
Yeah.
I hope he feels that way because it's true.
Smart. It's a good scheduling move.
Because it's loaded this time of year.
Yeah.
There's so many good events coming up, and he's going to be a fact. He's always playing well. The Canadian Open, So he's got a lot of opportunities coming up. He does not have to be here, and the fact that he's scheduled around being here is interesting to me.
That I mean, because I'm swimming around him, and obviously I have some options with a only bet 2 players. Yeah, it's I've been on Tommy a bunch this season, really more so for DFS than betting. I bet him twice this year, both times back to back in Florida at the API, and players did not go great, but he has been a machine for me in DFS. I mean, he's played 11 times this year. He's only finished outside the top 20 3 times in 11 starts this year. One of them was last week at Wells Fargo, and he actually ended up being one of the only guys in the 9K range to even make that cut. So he didn't even kill me there either. Um, I don't know. I can't decide whether I want to spray a bunch of bombs. I don't think it feels like this is the type of event that you can get a random winner, and we've seen somewhat random winners here and players with longer odds, but in theory, it shouldn't necessarily be that way. Like, it is not a theoretically random putting contest. It is a legitimate, real tee to green test. But the field just gets pretty weak pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different strategy betting outrights, without the favorite market too. Because again, a lot of these guys, if I look further down the board, I like a guy like Joel Damon, who suits this course well, even though he's coming off a couple recent poor efforts. Zalatoris was like 101 before you withdrew, which I thought was crazy, but didn't have a chance to take advantage of that. But there's guys like that at the bottom of this list who, if I'm betting in a without Scotty market, would I be shocked if like Sammy Valimaki came in second this week? I wouldn't be shocked about that. So I think there's guys worth taking a flyer on, but I had a tight card after Berger Fleetwood. I went Michael Kim and Lucas Glover.
Oh, I love the glove.
Yeah.
Maybe that puts me over the edge on Glover. I was looking at the 2 final guys I was going to mention were Glover and Cauley.
Yes, Glover and Cauley was a
Yeah.
1v1 for me, the last one to get on the card. I don't like at a glance before I looked at anything, I was like, this is a Bud Cauley course. He's 4th in my model. But a couple, like, I think he's had 3 straight, like, back to playing like Bud Cauley events where
I
like
was on him last week at Quail, and it was a difficult road over the weekend. I'm not gonna. I always knew that was going to be an uphill climb. Like, I didn't expect Bud Cauley to necessarily like mix to win at Quail, but he looked, and it'll be a different set of questions this week. He looked shaky on a big boy golf course, and he won't get that this week at Colonial. So I suppose we shouldn't dock him too hard for that.
Yeah, him and Michael Kim have actually had pretty similar seasons where it's like they've had this God mode month of just top 10 after top 10 after top 10 and overplaying, their own baselines like crazy. And now they're kind of back into like, okay, maybe that was just a flash and this is who I am. I'm not sure.
But often that's when the guys fucking end up winning, is when everybody hops off them.
Absolutely.
I've seen it happen many a time.
So, I mean, hopefully that's the case with Michael Kim this week. I don't think he's going to be a popular bet. He's like, he's 40 to 1 in the without Scotty market. He's like 55 to 1 standard market. So I don't think people are jumping to play him, but I think this course suits his game a bit better. He's had decent results here. And there's just this very linear trend of 9 of the last 10 winners have posted a top 10 before they've gone on to win within the last 3 years, which you don't see at many other courses. And I know the course just changed
at
pretty significantly.
Colonial.
Yeah, at Colonial. So within the last 3 years, have you finished top 10? 9 of the last 10 winners have done that before picking up their win here. So I like that about Glover because he has a T8 and T12 in his last 3 appearances. So you mix and then you figure out what you did wrong and then you find it. This seems to be the case. Even Davis Riley had a third 2 years ago before he won, which is still crazy to me. I don't remember that.
I hope we can extend it to a top 12 so Aaron Rye can check the box as well.
Aaron Rye mixed that year. I remember that. I don't know if I was on him or what, but that was a year where they just completely lost the greens. It was like a Shinnecock situation. It was
Yeah.
just brown by Sunday. Nobody could hold the green from anywhere.
Yeah, that's why I kinda like Colonial. They're not afraid to mix it up a little bit, take it right up to the edge. Um, all right, buddy. I don't think I have any other, I don't have any other names to throw out there. It would be disingenuous touting. It's not guys that I'm gonna end up betting. So any other names you wanna throw out there that you feel like we may be overlooking for the listeners?
Well, I mean, like Bud Cauley was a guy that just fell off my card, so that's a guy I like that I didn't quite get to bet. I think
Good. Bud's got his representation.
there we go. Tom Hoagie is a little bit of a Ponzi scheme in Texas because
Yeah.
every single year he goes back to the Texas swing, and I'm like, oh, TCU, and like accuracy is important. He never plays well in Texas.
Yeah.
Never. So I was about to bet Tom Hoagie, and then I really looked into it, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. So you can clip me if he wins now after saying that, but I'm off of Tom Hoagie. Yeah, you're right. I don't love the long shots here. I mentioned Valimaki. Like I like what he's doing on short courses. It's weird. He like transformed from a bomber to like
Yeah, he's a really
not a
good putter
bomber
too,
anymore.
I would add.
Great putter.
Yeah.
So he's interesting. Like maybe like a Harry Hall seems to be getting a little bit of action this week. But I'm not excited about anybody beyond like 50-1 this week, to be honest. So I went with
Yeah.
the tight card, and
Top
we'll see what
heavy
that means
card.
for DFS.
Beautiful, buddy. Well, congratulations. I should have mentioned at the top on your new podcasting venture with Joe. Great people. I'm excited to check out you guys together on Preferred Lines. What is that? Every Monday night now?
Yeah, Monday nights. The first 2 weeks have been at 8:30. I don't know if it'll always be at 8:30, but it's been 8:30 live. So this will this will come out after we've hosted, but it's available on.
Who is so? Are you guys still going to have guests, or is it just going to be you two every week?
It'll be us every week, and then we're gonna figure out if it makes sense to pull in like, I'd love to get more interviews on the show, get
Yeah.
access to like players or grounds crew people like superintendents and stuff. So where it makes sense to get like an expert where we don't have the knowledge and it's a new course or something, would love to make that a part of it. But generally speaking, week to week, it'll be the two of us.
Awesome. Well, cheers. Best of luck with that, buddy. I'm excited to give it a listen. And thanks for joining me as always, sir. Good luck at Colonial this week.
Thank you. You too.